Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex. Today we're taking a look at Blind Fate on the Nintendo Switch, and this one, it's more of a warning video, and the title, I think it tells all, but this one, it's pretty much broken, so save some cash, take it elsewhere, and let's take a quick look at why I do say that. So with that luck, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals near daily, and let's get started. If you are buying anything from the eShop, then please not this game, but consider using a cornershop.gg for discounted instant delivery email eShop credit. You can get 10% off at checkout using code CORNER. So before I do get into the gameplay, I was excited for this one. I actually had no idea it was coming to the Switch, honestly, but I jump on the eShop tonight, you know, a quick browse. I'm actually looking to download cereal cleaners, and then I come across and spot this in the new listings. I quickly pull out the credit card, part with 25 bucks, and I got maybe all of 10 minutes out of it before I swiftly uninstalled. The reason I'm interested, it's promising to be a 2D cyberpunk-styled samurai action platformer of sorts with a challenging combat scheme that leverages parries and a number of combo-driven sequences to slay your foes. You'll also get to leverage what are senses as you are blind, such as sound and smell. Enemies up until that point, in fact, they are invisible, and it's honestly a really cool idea and mechanic. Just the world as well, as I said, samurai cyberpunk, it just sounds ideal, and the story, it's fully voice acted. It even packs some quality looking cutscenes. Before I do continue as well, I do want to point out here, you will notice some funky visual effects, areas popping in and out, pixelation, locations and features disappearing and reappearing. That is all a part of the experience and in no way an issue with the game. It's actually a representation of our abilities, and I actually quite like it, but I don't want it misinterpreted as a problem with the game. It is definitely not. Anyways, look, I was surprised. Why had I not seen mention of this game? Why did I find zero Switch related videos? Why was there no pre-order page from what I'm aware of? I feel like would have spotted it sometime last week, and yeah, I can confidently say now I found out the answer. It is barely functional in its current state, and clearly they weren't working to drive too much attention towards it. Just performance-wise, it's a mess from the get-go, rarely breaking 20 frames per second, but feeling almost worse than any 20 I've seen before, because not only is it fluctuating all over the place, I was seeing somewhere between 14 and 24, but it's got this incredibly uncomfortable stutter to all of the movement and traversal. For me, it felt like it was near stop motion, and that is a big problem when it's promising an ultra-challenging combat scheme. This as well, it's not even an issue of, oh, maybe there's too many enemies on screen. It's instead just at all times the second you load it up. It was so bad, in fact, I quit the game, reloaded in, I even hard shut down my Switch and booted it back up. There was no improvement at all, so do please be aware I tried everything I could to ensure it was not a hardware issue. I even went ahead and booted into another game and no problems at all. Basically though, you guessed it, it leads to a control scheme that feels incredibly sluggish. The idea of parrying, you can forget that, and the input delay is huge. The first boss absolutely crushed me a couple of times, and that's just really intended to warm you up and get you into the game's many combat ideas. The same then can be said for the dojo as well. That's a training location. It's literally just a wire screen, a digital kind of VR environment, so near to no detail, and still the issue persists. You really know things are bad as well when it even impacts the cutscenes. Following the boss encounter, I got a lovely little 16 frames per second cutscene, and it's not really like visually in either the cutscenes or the gameplay, it's pushing the Switch. The downgrade for the hardware, it is incredibly clear with soft textures, a loss of detail, and the world in our lead is quite blurry against the background that I did see. Another thing that actually suggests it's quite a lazy port as well, they didn't even optimize the control scheme to be, you know, Switch related. Instead, we are going to be pressing B to enter into menus and A to back out, and that's always been a bit of a pet peeve for me when it comes to ports to the console. In fact, the only positive so far, the very limited amount of dialogue I've heard this far, it sounds solid, and the cutscenes, when they are functioning somewhat near to 30, they actually look half decent, with a nice transition often from 2D to a more close-up 3D vibe. It brings a lot of, character and life to this environment you are exploring. At this point though, I just don't see a way I would be able to get through this game without a huge amount of frustration. I want to go back as well to that difficulty. Enemies from the get-go, they are out to attack. The system it requires are combos of buttons that just barely react, and then the game knows it's challenging because the preset difficulty, it's actually set to easy rather than what Blind Fate considers normal. That for me though a good sign in an experience that's promising almost like Souls-like 2D combat, but it's not when the game's performance is absolutely tanking. I've had about maybe 15 minutes with the game. I tried to do more, but I couldn't bring myself to push forward. It desperately needs a patch, and I'd go as far as considering it pretty much in this state a broken product that should not be on the eShop. Once I'd seen what was happening on the Switch though, I went to look at reviews on other platforms. It seems the issue is exclusive to the Switch in its current build. That said though, opinions, they are not high, with a Metacritic rating of around 50% and the majority of publications stating it has some good ideas, but sadly it can't execute. One thing as well really makes me nervous in the reviews. It seems there's a ton of quick time events. That's going to be an absolute chore when the inputs, lack responsiveness down to that frame rate. Also on the dev screen it even says dodge and blocks are vital. Get to know your enemy attacks and the visual clues to what is coming. How the hell are you supposed to identify visual clues with such a massive lag? I do want to point out as well, because it's definitely not a positive video, this one, but I'm not one of the mind that frame rate is the be all and end all. In fact, I like plenty of games with frame rate issues or fluctuations. This is just a prime example of it being incredibly important. If you can't break 20 frames per second, it's probably gonna be like time to go back to the drawing board and delay your release. I've spent $25 on this one basically, so you do not have to, so please, listen to this warning. I was willing to go into that $25 so and experience an average game. That is fine. That's kind of the risk I knew I was taking, like I do often, so I can bring videos to the channel. I feel like that's one of the responsibilities of a channel like this, protect the buyer, but we shouldn't have to worry about games not working or barely running. That is not what this is about. If you go to the eShop and you pick up a game, you expect to be able to play it at least in some sort of functional state. I appreciate you all as always then watching this video. It's rare I do one that's so negative. Perhaps I was the only one psyched for this particular release as well. We will see in the comments. But if you are saying I really want to play this one, at least wait on a patch or go to basically any other platform from what I can tell. With that though, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals near daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.